So, since the Series 11 of Doctor Who has come to a close, I thought we might look it over and pick through the ashes. In one point of view here from the Rotten Tomatoes score overall of the series. Now, granted, there's still the special coming in for New Year's instead of Christmas. But as they have it set up, they don't really count that within the total for each individual season. So the specials are specials, they're extra. So anyway, this idea came to me because someone else got to it first. A very good channel on YouTube called Alturi, and I'll link her channel down below where she discusses this. And she makes a very good point, and it's really interesting because the decision to delay the return of Doctor Who till almost to the end, it'll be the fall of 2020, I believe. So that's a long time to wait for a show that's supposed to be on fire and the best of the bunch and all this sort of thing. And so I'm beginning to have serious suspicions of some amount of shenanigans going on with the ratings. So it's just a suspicion, can't prove it, that they are what they are, and they overall look good. The trend is downward, so hey, if you're going to fake it, why not make it, well, you don't want to be too obvious. but it is strange. So we get to the Rotten Tomatoes business, and to make the comparisons, you look at the previous one. So, of course, it all begins with Christopher Eccleston's one season that he did, which brings the show back, and it's all very triumphant. And I'm only interested in the audience score. That's everybody else besides the critics. Now, maybe back then the critical response was accurate. I don't know that this was their genuine, honest feelings here, but since Last Jedi, I just don't buy it. So, but here you have it where it's very low compared to the audience who really did appreciate and enjoy the return of Doctor Who with Eccleston. So, great going, Chris. And so he got an 84% score there for the overall season 1. So then David Tennant shows up, and then, the critics really, they love David Tennant. And then, of course, the audience did too. They're not as enthused at first as the critics, but 90%, that's about as good as it gets. And David Tennant really brought the new Doctor Who into the hot spot of interest, and pretty much created the audience that was driving it. And by that, I mean the female audience. It goes to where the storylines, and this even began under the Eccleston version, where it was very clear that they were structuring Doctor Who as a romantic fantasy adventure. Here he is. He's this handsome young man, and he's heroic, and he's mysterious, and he has this magic box, and he takes these young women away from their dull lives on an adventure, and he saves them when they're in trouble, and all this. It all plays into that, and I thought that had a great appeal to the female audience that grew towards this show. And that template that David Tennant portrayed here is what set the standard for new Doctor Who. Now, there was always hints of a romance of interest between the Doctor and his female companions in the classic series, but it never really crossed the line there. And sometimes wasn't quite romantic. Sometimes it was sort of, he was more of a fatherly character, but other times, no, it seemed pretty close. But never to the point of, I guess you could say it began with Paul McGann, because he's making out with the girl in that movie. But certainly with David Tennant, he was quite the romantic hero. And so that pretty much set the standard, and that's where the Doctor gets his high point, no doubt, and it shows here in the score. It just keeps going up. Season 3, he's still triumphant, and season 4, climbing all the way, almost to that 100%, but this is like the peak and top of the mountain for a new Who, And sadly, David Tennant ran away. He put in his 3 years, and he said, "Okay, I've done," and he did it. You know, he did his job, and he wanted to move on. So there you go. Once again, the rumor goes, and it wasn't a rumor. I mean, Moffat admitted it. He tried to keep him on for one more season. He had some idea about what to do, of how to phase out the Tennant Doctor into a new one. And he couldn't do it because Tennant said, "Nah, no, I'm good. I'm good to go." And so that's where you go. So he brings in Matt Smith. So Matt Smith, yeah, there's some drop there. There was quite a bit of, I don't know, because David Tennant had really captured the heart of the new audience for Doctor Who. And now there's this new guy who's much younger than him, but is still kind of in that template of a young heroic man. And there was this element of romance, but it never really came to that with Amy. But there was this sort of thing there, and the fantasy and fairy tale nature of it was still in place. And then of course River Song and all that was where he really, he was romantic with her. But so it was all still there, and it all fit, and it functioned. And I have to admit, I thought, oh, this was a bad choice. I didn't, and he had to work on me to get it going, but I could see what he was trying to do, and I gave him a shot, and it paid off. Unfortunately, the scripts didn't do him justice to the latter part of his tenure as the Doctor. So you're going along, and oh boy, we start to see a dip. And so, so yeah, it's already starting to go down. And this is not, I don't think, on Matt Smith, even though he's not my favorite of the new Who. I can't put it on him. There were some things, repetitive antics that he would do and stuff I found annoying. But he did what it was written to do, and there is the culprit. The scripts were beginning to get stale and fail, and I don't know, lack of ideas and rushing through and things that just didn't pay off. A lot of teasing and then no payoff was certainly a terrible wound to New Who. So Matt Smith did his job, and then he moved on. So they decided, hey, let's shake it up, go in a different direction, and get an older man in there. And, well, for me personally, Capaldi is the best of the New Who Doctors. But he never got the scripts worthy of his talent. But also, he doesn't fit the template that they had created that brought in the female audience for the romantic adventure. I'm sure there's men who like that type of stuff as well, but that's the template they had created, and now it really couldn't be, especially with such a young companion as Clara was at the time. It just didn't work. And so, I mean, you talk about your May December relationship if you pushed it to that, but it was closer to what the show had been in the classic era, but they never could bite the bullet and get there. So it was kind of, it's like they didn't know what to do. He's a fine actor. I think he did make a great Doctor, but they just didn't give him the scripts for it to become strong, and they didn't know what to do because suddenly they had abandoned their template and apparently didn't even realize they had. But still, the score, their audience is just not interested, and they're moving on. Gets an uptake here, 84%, which is about as good as he gets with season 9. I wasn't too fond of season 9. There was quite a few teases that were really fascinating, and then but the payoff just isn't there, especially that Davros episode. Oh boy, did I feel cheated. And it's irritating, yes. And so, yeah, whatever you gained there, you lost in season 10, and they didn't come back, I don't think. And now season 10 had some high points, but it also had some god awful, especially Smile and Oxygen, just practically breaking the fourth wall to preach, and especially with Smile, a terrible ethic in it, and so. Probably deserving of losing and going down the hill, but some great performances still by Capaldi, but again, a great talent wasted on a show that had nowhere to go. And so after that, it was at its lowest it had been since 2005, and they figured, well, we need to shake it up. So of course, the big drum beat for a female Doctor, they figured, hey, let's do that. and it'll shake things up and get interest, which it did. And it achieved the curiosity factor and got huge heights. I'm doubting the ratings now because I'm getting suspicious about this decision to cut the show, but I think generally that's true, that the first episode was really high. A lot of people tuned in to see that and probably stayed around for a little while to see where this is going and how would she do. But sadly, there was really nothing there, and they didn't take advantage of this idea. They just didn't. They just moved on and had no real passion within their own scripts and didn't even respect their own story ideas. So, gee, what did that result in? Uh-oh. So here we come. 47%. Well, what does that say? So I have to suspect something's up with the ratings. I mean, you just have to, because there's this, and then there's of course, the delay the show to 2020. I don't know. But so the idea was, hey, a woman doctor, that'll really appeal to our female audience that we grew with the restarting the show. As I explained, the template was romantic adventure with a heroic man. So, this is, if you thought Capaldi was distancing the show from that template, this one jumped all the way to another planet. So that could be some of the problem in misreading your audience. Now, there's been talk of her having a lesbian romance with Yaz, I believe. I don't see any evidence of that within the story, but what do they care? You could always slap it on. Okay, so I guess the gay audience would jump in, but is that enough to sustain and restart and gain numbers that you had before with the original template? Probably not, but I don't know. I guess they could try, but as far as the template that gave them their audience and the story that they wanted for New Who, this doesn't really do much for original fans, but that's pretty much an abandonment of it, and just thinking, well, women, so women want to see women. It's not as simple as that. But anyway, the idea that this is a show that's a super hit, I think you have to call into question, especially with the decision to delay season 12. So there you go. Check out in the link description, I've linked to Alteri's YouTube channel video discussing this, and do check that out. And while you're here, why not like and subscribe? And check out the other links in the link description. That'll take you to my many stores that have plenty of goodies for you.